Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We're your home for Caribbean weather, and it's great to see you on this Tuesday. I hope you're doing well. We're going to kick off this video with what's happening right now in portions of Central America and Mexico, as we still have our two tropical systems in the East Pacific bringing some big problems there, and a slug of tropical moisture from the ABC Islands to Jamaica and the Cayman Islands as well. Now, when we're talking about these two systems, we have Christina and we now have post-tropical storm Boris. Boris is inland near Acapulco. Christina is kind of hugging back towards the coastline of Nicaragua and Honduras, up towards Guatemala, and eventually on over towards El Salvador. Both areas, though, are causing big-time flooding concerns, up to a foot of rain in some locations. You're looking at steep terrain. You're looking at landslides and mudslides. Some of that information you'll find scrolling in our information hub at the bottom of your screen. All of those watches, warning, and advisories across your area, but obviously some significant impacts for these areas as we move through the remainder of Tuesday. Eventually, Christina will move inland as well. It's just going to be a big rainmaker for the southern sides of Mexico out of Boris. Now, back into the Western Caribbean, this lobe of energy is coming off of the northeast side of the Central American gyre. That's that broad spin, and you can clearly see the abundant amount of moisture on this Tuesday. An area that has been desperate for some rain has had a good amount over the weekend and early this week, and that's right over Jamaica. My friends there, Kingston, Portmore, Spanish Town, on up towards Ocho Rios and Montego Bay, Negril. Almost island-wide, we've had showers, a rumble of thunder, but just some good downpours from time to time. If nothing else, it's been overcast with some light rain and drizzle. Breezy conditions. Kingston's had a 30-mile-an-hour wind gust earlier today. Elevated sea conditions, both inland and offshore waters, including Pedro and Morant Banks. So we do have elevated sea conditions, red alerts, as a matter of fact, for most coastal locations. And again, you'll find that information down below. We also have a small craft alert for portions of the Cayman Islands, and we have a flood advisory that's in effect as well. We're getting some heavier downpours over portions of Grand Cayman, Little Cayman, and Cayman Brac. We've had a 28-mile-an-hour wind gust there on the west side of the island, and again, additional heavy rain likely over Little Cayman and Cayman Brac. An area that has not seen a lot of rain here in the last couple of months is getting some good moisture returning to this area, and this is not going to die out, at least in the next day or two, as more tropical moisture will feed into this area in the coming days. So that's the next weather headline, is that Jamaica is wet and is likely to stay wet. And it's not just Jamaica. It will be the Cayman Islands, Cuba, and the western sides of our area in general here over the next couple of days. Another spot that I expect to see decent rain chances, at least through tomorrow, is going to be portions of the ABC Islands, especially on over towards Aruba and Curacao, drying out a little bit over Bonaire. It's been nice to see hear some of my friends in the ABC Islands talk about some of these showers. At least that opportunity will be there. Now, they're not going to get the concentration of moisture as areas off towards our west. And speaking of that, as Christina moves up the coastline, we're going to continue to spin in more rain to northern Honduras, coastal Guatemala, Belize, and the Yucatan. And this is the next area that's going to get wet and potentially have some flooding issues. I'm talking about San Pedro Sula and La Ceiba, potentially the Bay Islands, an area that could use some rain, but just not too much. Utila, Roatan, and Guanaja, coastal Guatemala, Belize City, on up towards Orange Walk, and then the northeast sides of the Yucatan, Cancun and Cozumel. This energy is actually drifting back south and west towards the Merida area, Campeche, where again, additional heavy showers and storms are likely over the next couple of days. Cuba will get onto that act as well. And we'll continue to see what's going to be a very interesting forecast for portions of Florida and the northern sides of the Bahamas. I'm going to show you guys, give me just 1 second to pull it up here. I'm going to show you guys the infrared satellite imagery out of this. Actually, what I want to do is actually show you the water vapor imagery. That's the first thing. So there's a couple of deep things that are going on right now. There's actually a big lobe of tropical moisture that's sitting over Central and South Florida right now. It's all the green that you see. If I show you the visible satellite imagery, you'll see that there's even a little bit of a broad twist in the atmosphere. There's what we call a lot of precipitable moisture in the atmosphere right now, precipitable water, and that's going to allow there to be better rain chances for Central and South Florida, and then back into the northern side of the Bahamas in the coming days. We'll pick up the sea breeze storms again in Florida, including Miami, and on over towards Orlando, and we'll just see more showers break out over the central and the northern sides of the Bahamas in the coming days. So rain chances will start to go up after what's been a relatively dry forecast with that backdoor cold front that came through last week. Now, as we get towards the Dominican Republic and Haiti, This is the last area that could see a little bit in the way of some flooding. There still is some flood advisories right now for the northwest sides of the DR. Otherwise, we're going to dry out just a little bit here in most spots. I actually could expect a little bit better chance of rain on the southern side of the island. Santo Domingo and Punta Cana could be included in that. Then you get east of there, back to Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and the Lesser Antilles in general. And it's still more about the heat, the humidity, and the dry weather. Folks who are desperate for some rain still likely to not have a ton. Now, the temperatures across Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands on this Tuesday, not horrible in nature for us here, but you factor in the humidity, and now you're starting to see some heat indices again in the lower 90s. Hopefully to catch a couple of showers here and there. You can see a little bit of passing moisture across the island. Nothing in a big variety is expected, but if you live in places like St. Thomas, St. John, Virgin Gorda, Roatan, Tortola, and Agata, the opportunity for a passing shower here. For the rest of the islands, I'm going to go back over to the wind gusts. If nothing else, we'll get some breezy conditions from time to time, but I'm expecting a pretty tranquil forecast for the Leeward Islands here, Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Bart, St. Eustatius, St. Kitts and Nevis, Antigua, Barbuda, Montserrat. Great boating weather. We'll take a look at your marine forecast coming up. I like the forecast for Guadeloupe and Dominica and Martinique. It's still relatively dry in the Windward Islands as well, Barbados southward. Maybe a little bit more moisture towards Trinidad, but we are starting to see our next plume of Saharan dust entering the picture, and you'll see that come in beginning on Thursday. So I don't expect there for our eastern areas to see any big appreciable rain chances. There could be some localized areas that get better rain chances between now and Friday, but it's not going to be very area widespread. Otherwise, this is going to try and get back into Turks and Caicos, southeast Bahamas. Initially, the model tried to bring this Saharan air layer all the way into South Florida. However, the last couple of model runs, it's backed off that a little bit, which should allow that surge of moisture to continue in these areas. Otherwise, again, with all the moisture out west, the Saharan air layer is not going to be a big factor in the forecast there. Okay, so that is the next weather headline. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of behind myself on these weather headlines. The Saharan air layer that's going to be moving through, and again, the impacts to our northern and eastern areas for the most part. So now we are going to get into the forecast. As always, friends, I'll take a quick second and ask you guys to please like and subscribe to the channel. If you're getting anything out of this, we appreciate you sharing this channel with your friends. Let them know that we've got your 5-day forecast, we've got your marine forecast. Always take a look at the tropics this time of the year as well. And again, I appreciate the support of our subscribers and of course our members as well. Okay, tropical outlook time. So now how all of this moisture kind of comes into the equation and what's going to be happening over the next 5 days for us here. I'm going to bring on this marine forecast as I've mentioned. So the first thing is obviously any chance for true tropical development has pretty much gone by the wayside, right? Still going to be monitoring all of this energy produced from the Central American gyre. If nothing else, I think flooding rains are more prolific as an opportunity for portions of the Cayman Islands, maybe Jamaica as well, but really concentrated northern sides of Central America and into portions of the Yucatan as this just kind of spins on the northeast side of the Central American gyre, feeding in all of that energy. Now, eventually down the road in the Southwest Gulf, there's not as much shear, and the European ensemble members are still trying to hold on to an opportunity to maybe spin up something briefly. It would go right into Mexico if it does so, but it could also spell more moisture into southern Texas and portions of Mexico along the Gulf Coast. Otherwise, again, the Caribbean is quiet at this point in time. One reason why I expect it to remain quiet is that the wind shear is significant. We see that with an El Nino. The winds are going to be very brisk from Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, the ABC Islands west, in association with our Central American gyre, and that's not going to allow anything to develop tropically as far as that goes. So when we look at the European ensemble members here, again, you know, picking up Christina and just broad systems in the East Pacific, but this is a much more tame European ensemble than what we've seen over the last week. Again, there's one or two ensemble members trying to develop a center of low pressure in the Southwest Gulf, but immediately pushing it west inland to Mexico. Otherwise, I expect us to be absolutely quiet through the weekend ahead. No other models that you're looking at, either globally, the Google DeepMind, nothing is trying to develop anything here. It's still all about the East Pacific for any opportunity. And again, you'll see that on the European ensemble members. Still could see some potential development between now and early next week there. Otherwise, again, it's just that small piece of energy in the far south southwest Gulf. Otherwise, I don't expect anything to happen out of these other areas that you see. That chance looks to be pretty much going by the wayside. So the question becomes, does June remain quiet? Certainly is a possibility, especially in an El Nino year. We can get those homegrown storms. The Gulf is always a potential breeding ground in June, but otherwise, when do we get Arthur? Is it well down the road? We'll just have to wait and see as far as that goes. Let's talk about the rain chances for us here. So we've highlighted what's happening right now with the tropical outlook. So who's going to get the most rain? Well, obviously, when you're talking about this map, you're going to look back into what's happening along the Pacific coastline of the countries that I've already mentioned. This is here for portions of the Pacific side of Nicaragua and on over towards Honduras. You're looking at more than a foot of rain in a couple of spots. Goes up to 14 inches. But here's the next spot to be monitoring. Again, southern sides of the Yucatan, Quintana Roo, back down towards Belize City, including San Pedro. The opportunity that later this week, in this weekend, we pick up some significant rain here. So my friends, if you live in these areas, I want you to start thinking about the opportunity or the potential that some significant rain could be moving your way towards the coast. I'll monitor the situation for us here, but obviously some of the models are quite aggressive at the totals. Notice though, it's not necessarily going to translate to the Bay Islands, but just in general, you're looking at extremely healthy rain totals between Christina moving inland and that lobe of energy east of you spinning back in. So the combination of the two is just rich, deep tropical moisture that's going to spell an abundant amount of rain. Jamaica itself will be drying out a bit, but I still expect there to be potentially higher numbers than that. Portions of the Cayman Islands, again, well more than a few inches of rain. This model is a little bit lower than what I'd anticipate. There's some of the heavier rain over portions of Honduras and potentially, the Dominican Republic and potentially Haiti as well. Looking at the European model's chance for rain over the next 5 days, watch that just blossom again. Friday through the weekend. Deep reds and maroons, 4 to 6 plus inches of rain, and even locally higher right along the coast of Quintana Roo. You're looking at, again, maybe 100 to 200 millimeters of rain, 4 to 8 inches in a couple of spots. It's just wet across northern sides of Central America and the Yucatan. Cuba, Florida will get into more sea breeze showers and storms. ABC Islands could see some rain, but again, our eastern areas likely to stay relatively dry outside of a couple of passing showers for us here. As far as wave heights go, still are likely to see some marine advisories for Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and eventually into other areas of the Northwest Caribbean. I expect it to be very beautiful conditions for boaters across the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos. Bermuda will more than likely get back into some marine warnings with the next cold front coming off the United States East Coast. Otherwise, for the Lesser Antilles and the Windward Islands, I do expect there to be some nice conditions there. Trinidad and Tobago can see some elevated conditions. I'm not expecting any big swell issues for places like Barbados and St. Lucia anytime soon. And again, on these marine forecasts that you see down below, St. Martin as an example, pretty tranquil wave heights. Again, max waves and the Virgin Islands right now, less than 2 feet in a lot of spots. That's not bad at all. All right, friends, I appreciate you guys. I'm going to keep you updated on what's happening across their area. Do me a quick favor, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel as well. Again, a lot of areas getting a fair amount of rain, others remain dry. We'll see if that pattern flops anytime soon. Otherwise, I'll be monitoring the situation for the potential heavier and flooding rains in our northwest areas. Friends, have a great rest of your day. Until I see you soon, take care.